Talking about the Sean McCrudden business, I remember Jimmy Padandy was in Minus, I think, maybe after they came home from the match, and all Padandy could say was McCrudden.
That's right, remember
McCrudden.
That well.
That's right, you know.
Poor McCrudden.
That was what year, Liam?
That would have been in February of '79.
February '79.
Yeah.
So we're getting pretty. That was the All Ireland semi-final.
That was
wasn't
the
it?
All Ireland semi-final.
So we're heading now for the final.
We're heading for the final, which was played on St Patrick's Day, 17th of March 1979, and without doubt the worst day for football ever God put in the earth. And we headed off early in the morning. It was very, very, very heavy snow. There was debate all up the road. There was no mobile phones or anything them days. Would the match be played at all? When we got as far as Croke Park, we learned that the hurling match had been called off. And if truth be told, Mackie, the other match should have been called off too.
This is the Scotstown man, Brendan Lillis. That's the centre-back, Sean McCarville. His brother, Seamus. Seamus, the centre-forward, into Jim McCabe. Jim, the youngest player on the field, 19 years of age, going confidently and getting it into the right half forward. The breeze helping Nemo in this first half. Billy Morgan comes out for Nemo Rangers. Kick way out to the far side of the field. Sean McCrudden for Scotstown. Sean's kick across to the centre, and the Scotstown in the early stages. We're still in the first minute. This is a chance here for the left half forward, Cormac Morgan, the captain as well.
It's my one regret in all the time spent in football that somebody, myself or somebody from within the club, or somebody from Croke Park had the gumption to say this match can't go on.
Forward, and I've never seen a match played in conditions like this before. If the ball happens to go behind the goal today, there'll be nobody to throw it back to the goalkeeper. This is the Scotstown goalkeeper, Eamon Keane. Eamon placing the ball, and his fullback, Jerry McCarville, will take the kick.
I do know for a fact that Nemo weren't going to come out in the second half of the game, only that they got a lead which they probably didn't deserve at half time.
That's right. In fact, it was that goal. It was what you might call a handy goal that they got. You know, I'm not going to say it was against the run of play, but it was a kind of a bolt out of the blue just before half time.
It was a freak goal.
Yeah, that's right.
It was a ball pulled on 60 yards out that skidded on the wet surface. So
you were back again anyway the following year as champions, Liam. Again, Ulster Club champions the following year.
Yeah, well, I'd have to say, Mackie, probably lucky enough to have gotten through Monaghan, because I think Monaghan Harps held us to a point.
Aye, that was what year?
That was 80.
Oh, that's right. Was there not a draw in that?
A draw the first day.
That's right,
yeah.
that's right.
And Adrian Trapp had a chance to win it for the Harps and went for a point instead of a goal.
Was it Nemo again?
No, it was Finbars then that we played in the semi-final of the All-Ireland in Clonus.
In Clonus, that's right.
Yeah, and again they would have had big names, Jimmy Barry Murphy, Shea Fahy, you know, that would have had a lot of recognised all-stars and that.
Again, contradict me if I'm wrong, you would have played the Bars twice around that time, didn't you?
Well, again, we were lucky enough to win Ulster in 80.
So you had
and we had to go to St Finbars to play them in an All-Ireland semi-final.
When I took over 3 years ago as coach and trainer of the team, the team had been doing very well under Sean McCaig, and I was fortunate enough to be able to come in at a time when there was a good panel of players. They were very keen and very enthusiastic, but I think the one thing they lacked was the thing which many rural clubs lack, and that is the belief in themselves that it is actually possible to win in All-Ireland.
Again, I'd have to say very unlucky. The week before we were due to go, Monaghan played Tyrone, a very important National League game. There probably would have been 6 or 7 of the Scotstown team on Monaghan County team at the time. And Jean Sherry got injured, Damien got injured, Ronnie got injured.
This was against Tyrone, was it?
Some of them was against Tyrone.
Right.
And we stopped in Cashel on the way down, an overnight in Cashel, and we did the fitness test on Damien and Jean Sherry.
Right.
And they weren't fit to play. But I do recall that would have been one of the first games that Niall McKenna would have starred in. And we knew then that he had that he had come of age.
As far as I know now, I have a notion that might have been Niall McKenna's debut for Scotstown at senior level.
He certainly, well, he may have played a couple of league games or that, but that would have been the first championship
and Gerard
game.
Cherry was playing that time too, wasn't he? Jean's brother.
We Gerard, although he would have ended up on the team that started, but not necessarily would have started if everybody had been fit. We're very unlucky too that I suppose 10 or 15 minutes into the game, Sean McCrudden broke his arm, which had a big effect, and we had Tom Mina, who absolutely starred that day, and he played with 2 broken fingers strapped up, you know. So all in all, I
think there was about 3 or 4 points in it at the end, you know. But so the conditions down there were atrocious too.
Well,
Parky Keeve, wasn't it?
It was Parky Keeve. Probably the conditions wasn't that bad, Mackie. But we just didn't score enough.
Right.
With a lot of the play and didn't score, and hadn't, as it turned out, because of the 6 or 7 injuries that we had, we just hadn't strength and depth.
That was an extraordinary time, Liam, you know, between 77 and 84, you know, because there were all kinds of championships won, and underage and everything, you know. It
was a super time for the club. There would have been no Sundays that we wouldn't have played 2 matches. We'd be off, play a championship match, league match, and then be off in the evening to Balahi or wherever. And I have to say, the club made a fantastic reputation for themselves everywhere they went, and I have developed lifelong friends out of it. There's no doubt about that. So I know that you mentioned to me one time about a record that we just missed out on around that time, you know. Yeah, well, obviously we missed the 82 championship. There was a lot of reasons for it, but anyway, we didn't win, but won the subsequent 3, so we could have had 8 in a row. It was a bit like Kerry being caught. They were caught in 82 as well. Yeah. Well, the one thing, Mackie, you can't change what happens in the past. I know. You had great work going on that time, remember, at under 16 and minor level, you know. Yeah, well, Jimmy McCary obviously would have come in to manage minor teams and that, and he would have brought an awful sense of commitment to the whole procedure. And we had wee Jimmy and Hugh McCaig and all with juveniles. Jimmy? Yeah. Jimmy? Wee Jimmy Sherry. Jimmy the factory. Jimmy. I remember Jimmy worked particularly with the under-14s and the under-15s. He had 2 very good juveniles that time. There was Roger McDermott and Philly McCaig, you know. Yeah, well, I remember given, I suppose that's part of the reason myself and Jimmy got very great, was giving them a shot at different times. Right. Then senior leagues, in fact, I remember the thing got so common that there was no excitement at all, you know, coming home after winning a league. Yeah, well, we're very fortunate at that time, Mackie, that even we mightn't have won them all, but for 16 years in a row, we finished top of the league charts.
And of course, I remember as well, you had a great seven-a-side sort of thing going at the time, you know.
Super seven-a-side. I have to say, we used to enjoy seven-a-side football enormously. We'd go down to Castlewellan every year. Some years with slightly different panels. I remember one year going where we had, out of the 10 people we had, with nine backs and one forward, but still were able to win it. We were practically unbeatable at sevens at that time, and we're lucky enough to win on All-Ireland sevens in
that was in Belfield, was it? Right. Final, was that final played out at Belfield, was it?
No, that final was played in Croke Park, Maggie, after a National League game. In fact, we beat Kilmacud Crokes.
Oh, right. They're still running a great sevens tournament themselves, you know, on the eve of the All-Ireland. Yeah.
I remember again. You had Ronnie, Niall McKenna, Jerry, Damien, Jim Trainer.
I think you had Niall Moyna was
and Brian Rice. You know, I still remember Brian Rice took off one of the best saves ever I saw in my life and that.
Niall Moyna, Niall has moved on, of course.
Niall has moved on, and I would like to think that his participation with Scotstown stood him in good stead, and that he learned something from us, and we certainly learned something from him.
Right.
Because he became trainer after Brendan Lillis and brought new methods and kept us going.
And where is he now at the minute?
Well, he's up in UCD. Or DCU, I should say, and has been extraordinarily good to Monaghan players, particularly Scotstown players, with scholarships and everything else.
And won a few. I think he has won at least one Sigerson, maybe a couple of Sigersons too.
Yeah, that's Sigersons, with a couple of Monaghan men on them too.
I remember talking to you again, Liam, before, particularly about your good senior team. You know, you referred to the fact that